Уважаемые дамы и господа, мы хорошо поговорили по всему спектру нашей двусторонней повестки дня, по международным, региональным делам и подтвердили, что прочные разносторонние связи между нашими странами опираются на крепкий фундамент взаимного доверия и обладают сильным иммунитетом от воздействия международной политической конъюнктуры. У нас общее мнение, что несмотря на проблемы, вызванные коронавирусной инфекцией, диалог за последний год развивался поступательно. Мы использовали, конечно же, и технологию формата онлайн, но целый ряд встреч состоялся в очном формате, включая мой визит в Индию весной этого года. И вот теперь господин Субраниам Джайшанкар посещает Москву с очередным визитом. У нас полное согласие в том, что отношения между нашими странами, которые наши лидеры охарактеризовали как особо привилегированное стратегическое партнерство, укрепляются и имеют очень хорошую перспективу. Особое внимание уделили развитию политического диалога, подготовке содержательного наполнения будущего российско-индийского саммита, который запланирован на этот год, но конкретную дату наши лидеры определят в зависимости от развития ситуации с пандемией коронавирусной инфекции. В этой сфере, в борьбе с COVID-19 у нас уже немало сделано. Российский фонд прямых инвестиций заключил с ведущими фармацевтическими компаниями Индии соглашение по выпуску российского препарата. Опытное производство в экспериментальном плане уже было апробировано. Сейчас соответствующие структуры согласовывают, как сделать его уже в промышленном масштабе. И уверен, что производство российского препарата на территории Индии внесет существенный вклад в общемировые усилия по борьбе с этой инфекцией. Говорили мы о том, как нам сейчас согласовать свои действия с учетом того, что все-таки гражданам необходимо передвигаться, посещать другие страны. У нас есть некоторые идеи на сей счет, которые предложили наши индийские друзья. Мы будем над ними работать в предметном плане. Обменялись мнениями о торгово-экономическом сотрудничестве. Эта тема была главной в ходе вчерашней встречи господина министра с заместителем председателя правительства России Юрием Борисовым. Вместе они возглавляют межправительственную комиссию по торгово-экономическому сотрудничеству. И мы ожидаем, что действующие механизмы межправительственной комиссии будут вырабатывать дополнительные меры для стимулирования торгово-экономического и инвестиционного сотрудничества. Хорошим признаком является то, что за первые 4 месяца этого года товарооборот вырос почти на 12%, и эту тенденцию надо всячески укреплять. Подтвердили необходимость подписания обновленного соглашения о защите капиталовложений, до согласования программы торгово-экономического и инвестиционного сотрудничества до 2030 года и завершения работы над целым рядом других документов, которые на самом деле смогут вывести наше взаимодействие на качественный новый уровень. В этом же направлении мы заинтересованы в том, чтобы как можно скорее начались переговоры между Индией и Евразийской экономической комиссией по формированию зоны свободной торговли. Соответствующая рабочая группа сформирована. Надеемся, что в ближайшее время будет определена дата ее первого заседания. Напомню, что пару недель назад, 29 июня, состоялось знаковое событие для нашей кооперации в сфере мирного атома, имею в виду заливку первого бетона для 5-го блока атомной электростанции Кудан-Кулам. Это еще один пример успешной реализации совместных планов в одной из ключевых областей российско-индийского партнерства. Важное место в наших отношениях занимает военно-техническое сотрудничество. Обменялись информацией о ходе выполнения текущих контрактов, о работе по расширению соответствующей договорно-правовой базы. Мы подтвердили готовность участвовать в проектах по локализации производства российской продукции военного назначения и созданию совместных предприятий на индийской территории в рамках реализации объявленных индийскими коллегами программ замещения импорта «Делай в Индии» и «Самодостаточная Индия». Мы уверены, что наращивание усилий в этом вопросе, в этой области в полной мере отвечает национальным интересам наших стран, интересам региональной безопасности. Мы отметили позитивное развитие взаимодействия в области мирного освоения космоса, в первую очередь в рамках поддержки нашей госкорпорации «Роскосмос» индийской пилотируемой
of the Indian manned space mission Gaganyaan. We have also noted the closeness or similarity of our approaches to key issues and pertinent issues of regional agenda, such as the political resolution of the very complex situation in Afghanistan, the situation in Syria, as well as the efforts around creating a proper climate for resolving through intra-Syrian dialogue the situation around the Iran nuclear program and other topics. We highly assess the quality and scope of close cooperation between our two countries, including at the United Nations, where India holds a non-permanent seat, at the Security Council, as well as in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and within BRICS. We believe that our contacts within RIC are also quite promising, and we plan another meeting on a ministerial level very soon. We have also discussed the processes in the Asia-Pacific region, and on both sides we have reaffirmed our desire to strengthen the role of ASEAN as a central component in the security architecture of the region, including the East Asian Summit support, including the ASEAN Regional Forum on Security, the SMOA meetings, etc., and other formats as well. We are grateful to our Indian colleagues for their constructive approach and their readiness to closely cooperate with us on the international arena. The talks were very successful, and I am grateful to my colleague, and I give the floor over to him.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I'm very happy to speak to you at the conclusion of the talks I've had this morning with Foreign Minister Lavrov. I would say the talks were, as always, very warm, comfortable, comprehensive, I think productive. We, in many ways, built upon the conversation we had when the Foreign Minister was in Delhi in April this year. Before the talks today, I was in Moscow yesterday. I delivered a talk at EAM on why our partnership is a special and privileged partnership. I think the uniqueness of our relationship was demonstrated, reaffirmed in many ways by our discussion today. I also had a very good meeting yesterday with Deputy Prime Minister Yuri Borisov, where we went through issues relevant to the Intergovernmental Commission. So let me speak a little bit about the talks this morning with the Foreign Minister. I think what it showed was that despite the fact that so many things are changing in our world, both before and as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, our time-tested and trust-based relationship is very much not just in place, but remains very strong, continues to grow. We are seeing that in different ways, and I would like to, right at the start, express my appreciation for the support we got from Russia during the second wave of the COVID pandemic this year. There were 4 consignments which were flown in on a very expedited basis by the Russian government. And of course, as you've also heard, now India has become a partner of Russia in the production and use of the Sputnik V vaccine. And we believe that this is not only good for the two of us, but it has positive implications for the rest of the world. Now, we've always seen our relationship with Russia as a contribution to global peace, security, and stability. I think what makes our working together so natural and comfortable is our belief in a multipolar global order. We consider that to be a reflection of a very natural, I would say, inevitable process of the evolution of interstate relations in the 21st century. Now, much of our talks, especially the bilateral side of it, was to review the progress in different dimensions of our very broad-ranging cooperation. I think Foreign Minister Lavrov has spoken about its different developments there. I don't want to repeat that, but I would recognize that we've actually made very good progress, even though for the last 1 year, a lot of this has been through virtual contacts. And I can assure you that when the annual bilateral summit takes place this year, the development, the progress in our cooperation will be very much on display before all of you. A new dimension that has been added to our relationship, of course, is the agreement to hold a 2+2 dialogue of foreign and defense ministers. We felt that we should do that sometime as per mutual convenience this year. Otherwise, I can say we are very satisfied with the all-round development of our relations. Again, as you know, a lot of our cooperation is focused on the nuclear, space, energy, and defense sectors. The Kudankulam nuclear power plant project is on track, and you heard Foreign Minister Lavrov tell you that the concrete first pour for Unit 5 has taken place. Space, again, has both practical and, I would say, symbolic importance for our relationship. You have been our original and strongest partners on the space side. The energy cooperation between us has grown very significantly in the last few years, and we see that today reflected both in new potential investments and long-term commitments which we have agreed to in the field of oil and gas. Our defense military technical cooperation, but I would say even industrial collaboration today has been strengthened by a Russian interest in Make in India program, which is very visible. Moving beyond the established areas, we have been discussing greater inter-regional cooperation, particularly with the Russian Far East. We spoke about how we could take that forward. There are some agreements which have to be signed. I think we made some progress there. We discussed connectivity, especially the North-South corridor. We discussed it yesterday with Mr. Borisov, but also today with Mr. Lavrov. The Chennai-Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor as well. I briefed him about, what is happening in terms of developments in India. And I think overall our sense of economic cooperation and science and technology cooperation was very positive. In terms of regional and global issues, India is poised to hold the presidency of the Security Council in August. So I shared with Foreign Minister Lavrov our plans and ideas for that month, and we obviously value Russian participation and cooperation in that regard. I would say in the UN Security Council, this is not a surprise. In fact, it is very much a natural happening that we have worked very cooperatively and very positively. So the strength of our strategic partnership, I think, is also today expressed when it comes to deliberations in the UN. India is currently the chair of the BRICS and also of the RIC. So that is also something we discussed. We have common membership of G20, of ASEAN-led forums, of SCO, of SICA. So we have an SCO Foreign Ministers meeting coming up very soon. So we've spent some time on that. In terms of specific regions, of course, the situation in Afghanistan occupied a lot of our attention because it has a direct implication for regional security. We believe that the immediate need of the day is really a reduction in violence And if we have to see peace within Afghanistan and around Afghanistan, that's important for India and Russia to work together to ensure that much of the progress that we have seen in economic and social and democratic terms are maintained. We are both committed to an independent, sovereign, united and democratic Afghanistan. Beyond Afghanistan, we spoke in some detail about what was happening in Syria, about the Iran issue, spent some time on Libya. And we have both long-standing interests in the region. We believe that peace and stability in such a sensitive region is very, very important for global interests. From my side, I shared our viewpoint on the Indo-Pacific. We support cooperation that reflects the multipolar and rebalanced character of global politics. What I told the Minister Lavrov, which I repeat to you, is we are very much committed to the centrality and the unity of the ASEAN. And we believe that the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative that we tabled in the East Asia Summit is very important for the larger region. We, of course, because of our larger geopolitical compatibility with Russia, we see a more active Russian presence and participation in the region as something very, very important. So once again, what I would conclude by saying is it was a very good discussion. It is very much part of a regular, continuous dialogue that we have been having. It's very good to be back here, Minister Lavrov. And I would say we have today made good progress as part of preparations for the summit. Thank you very much.
Now moving on to questions. Russia Today. Thank you very much. Mr. Lavrov, Taliban has declared today that it already controls 85%. What additional measures can Russia undertake together with Tajikistan in order to strengthen the borders, as 2/3 of those borders are under the control of Taliban? And can the world make its peace with the fact that Afghanistan will be controlled by Taliban with no negotiations with the government in Kabul? And Mr. Jaishankar, how can you comment on the development of situation in Afghanistan? Is India concerned by the current events in Afghanistan? Thank you. As for Afghanistan and whether the world can make its peace with the situation as it is now, I guess we should address this question to the Afghani themselves. With the mediation of the United States, we have decided on the steps to stabilize the situation, to launch a political process, to reach an agreement on an intermediary period, and finalizing the final parameters for Afghanistan in future. I believe that the decision should be made by Afghanistan itself, but the agreements between Washington and Taliban were welcomed all around the globe, and now we want to see those agreements implemented in practice. As for the ongoing clashes, I believe that the situation in Afghanistan is of great concern to us from the viewpoint that this situation might spill over the borders to the countries, our allied countries. The Taliban has now taken the cross-border points on the border with Iran, on the border with Tajikistan. As far as those events take place in Afghanistan, we are not going to undertake any measures except for urging for a political process to go forward, which was supported by the people of Afghanistan. We will discuss Afghanistan next week in Dushanbe, where the ministerial meeting of SCO will take place. We talked about it today, and the contact group SCO Afghanistan meeting will take place. We will hear what our Afghani friends have to say and what are their plans to promote the political process in the country. And also next week in Tashkent, we'll have a conference of the Central and Southern Asia. And I believe that the Afghanistan issue would be also of high importance during the discussions, and we hope that all the participants would send a strong message to all the people of Afghanistan to start negotiating for real.
On my part, your question, yes, of course, we are concerned at the direction of events in Afghanistan. You know, in many cases, when there is a volatility in a society, we leave the people of that country to work it out. But Afghanistan is a very different case because for now more than 30 years, there have been international conferences, there have been groups, there have been formats to discuss how to stabilize and bring about peace in Afghanistan. And the reason is because it has proven implications for regional security and regional stability. So the point right now we stress is that we must see a reduction in violence. Violence cannot be the solution for the situation in Afghanistan. And at the end of the day, who governs Afghanistan has a legitimacy aspect to it. I think that is something which cannot and should not be ignored.
Times of India.
Times of India. I shall start then. I believe that the relations between Russia and India with regards to uniting efforts in combating the coronavirus infection are indeed exemplary. We are pursuing the goal of protecting our own populations and also taking part in the global efforts to ensure the broadest vaccination rollout possible, especially for developing countries where they do not have the opportunities to organize a vaccination campaign. This is what we were guided by during the recent fora, including discussing this very topic within the G20. As we have already said, we are cooperating in advancing the production of Sputnik V in India. The experimental production of a small number of doses has already taken place, and now the experts are trying to advance and to ensure advance of the processes, production processes, to ensure proper quality. We are prepared to discuss coordinating our efforts with regards to vaccinated people, with regards to vaccine certificates for those who have been vaccinated. I believe that we can reach an agreement in this area, and that would set an example for all the other countries that within the framework of what you called vaccine diplomacy, try to discriminate against certain vaccines, such as Russian or Chinese vaccines. We can hear those messages coming from certain countries of the European Union. However, the European Commission itself is interested in cooperating with Russia and other producers of key global vaccines. And apart from the G20, where we discuss this very topic, we are also working on using the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRICS and other structures for this very end, where Russia participates. India and Russia are both against the attempts to politicize this situation, against the attempts to be guided by unfair competition. And I guess most countries around the globe share this response.
Thank you. Let me make 3 points. One, that the COVID challenge has actually provided an occasion for India and Russia actually to demonstrate the strength of their cooperation. We are seeing that today in the production of Sputnik vaccine. I completely agree with my Russian counterpart. I think we have to protect our population and help the world, and the two go together, that they are part of the same issue. The second point I would make is regarding travel. We believe that the basis for travel should be testing, that if people who are tested before for international travel, who are tested before travel and tested on arrival is a good enough basis for travel. But some countries have now introduced the issue of vaccination. So we will have to reach, obviously, some understanding, and that is something I've discussed today. How do we make sure that we are not discriminated against, and how do we reach understandings between ourselves about the travel of our citizens to each other's countries? The third issue is actually not a vaccine issue, it's an economic recovery issue, that all our economies have been negatively impacted by the COVID. So a large part of the discussions I had with Deputy Prime Minister Borisov and with the Foreign Minister today was how can India-Russia economic cooperation speed up economic recovery for us.
Пожалуйста, Newsroom.
Newsroom, please. You have already mentioned the negotiations on creating a free trade area between EU and India. How do you assess those negotiations? Are there any developments, and are there any clarity with regards to the time the agreement would be signed? Yes, there is some clarity when it comes to the launch of negotiations. We have created a relevant working group, and the participants will decide on the first meeting as soon as the coronavirus situation would allow. I believe that such negotiations should not be held online. We need to have meetings in person. We have our own interest, as our Indian friends do, to make this process expeditious and to reach an agreement. And in the context of the negotiations, we will also take into account such a circumstance that the EAM, with regards to its internal and external relations, especially where free trade area agreements have been signed, an important place is given to mutual payments issues, especially considering the issues we observe on global markets and attempts to introduce sanctions when it comes to the use of United States dollar. So we are actively introducing in our trade turnover with our EAM countries and other countries of introducing payments in our national currencies. And I believe that our Indian colleagues have very good starting positions. Back in 2018, our Russian national card system and Indian national corporation signed a memorandum of cooperation when it comes to the possible use of mutual capacities in this area, and I believe that would help us create a favorable climate for negotiations on the free trade area and its further functioning.
I have very much to add to it, except I think we have seen progress in the negotiations, and we are now looking for physical meetings to take it forward.
Спасибо.
Thank you.